Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Geneva or Jen, and we're here at Peace Love Jen. And I'm here with Hannah. How are you doing, Hannah?
I'm doing okay. We're back at it again, and we just watched season 2, episode 2 of Syrvivor Syracuse. And then the recap that came afterward. And what great content.
Yes, absolutely. We got 2 hours of content. So first we got the first hour, which was the actual episode. And then we also saw the host, Luke, and he had a couple guests talk about the episode and debrief it with the person who was voted out. So it was very interesting to see all of that content tonight. But we want to talk about the episode from the player's perspective, of course.
What happened on our end? Because it is funny during the recap where they're like, wait, what exactly happened there? Who is, and then like we know these very, very specific answers to all these questions. But yeah, or yeah. And it's like you just want to have like a powwow, like a reunion, like get everybody together and be like, who said, she said, he.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so tonight, spoilers, so you should probably go watch episode 2. Tonight we lost Noah. Zeleny ended up going back to tribal, and we voted out Noah. So
you did.
What do you think about that?
That's the end of the episode, but we're going to start from the
summarizing what we saw tonight. But let's start at the very beginning, the aftermath of last week. So we see me, Mike, Austin, and Erica, and we see explaining to them, trying to do some damage control, saying, hey, look, this is why this happened, trying to make it sound like it was Megan and Addie, like, oh, it was these people, they were going to vote this way anyway, I thought we might as well do it, trying to get out of it alive. Yeah.
And I guess from your perspective, how did that conversation go? I know we ended up hearing the confessionals and what people actually thought, but in the moment, what were you thinking at this point?
I think in the moment, I knew that they were shocked, right? And that it would probably take them some time to like, because I think that's scary it's scary anytime you don't know what's happening at tribal. But I thought we came to a good place by the end of the day, because because I was there with them through that entire thing, through that entire day, while Addie and Megan were not, right? Right. And Derek and Noah, it's like they were just on the bottom. You probably like don't see having, like, I don't think any of those three imagined Derek or Noah in their future. At this point. Yeah, so we see that, and then what we go to the challenge. It seems like they're just kind of in shock, but Zeleny's ready to win this challenge. But not so fast. We see Maroon 9 has brunch.
Yes.
This was a brunch that Maroon 9 bragged about a lot, and about how cohesive and how united they were.
Well, not just because of that. I don't know if you all saw, but my brunch looked divine. It was fantastic. I loved that French toast. It was delicious. I had a mimosa, which was super great as well. We had a wide variety of different foods that people were having. So 7 of us met up and went out to brunch. So everybody was there except for Jack and Andrew, who had some commitments prior, but we all wanted to bond, get to know each other a bit more, which is kind of funny because did we realize what challenge was happening next? No, not necessarily, but I think it did help us a bit and did give us an advantage, because when you think about it, with us at least, we did, we had a little bit more harmony. We had more time to just chill.
Yeah,
and you had to go straight into tribal council.
Yeah, I can imagine that although we did see some of you meeting up that week and initiating things and finding things. There wasn't really a need to strategize or do as much because that was 2 weeks that you guys did not go to tribal. So that's a lot of time to just sit back and relax. But I think it was interesting when we did get to the challenge, which was about, answering questions about your tribe mates. I don't know if it was because you guys went to brunch or just because the people in Zeleny did not, but just how much people were putting into the game, how active people were in terms of that. But it was interesting that Eli got all of the questions right. But overall, I think it definitely helped you guys.
I think though that week I recall, I recall specifically messaging everybody just to get to know them. So I think that really helped me know some certain details, and there were details from the meet and greet that actually came into play at this challenge. So like the question I got about Daisy and wrestling, that was actually at the meet and greet. And I had specifically made sure to go to the meet and greet early so I can learn important information about people, as well as just be able to get to know people, get to know their names, and interact. So the one thing before we get to the challenge and talk more about that, I did want to touch on after Rise and Shine Diner, Abby, Summer, Daisy, and myself, we actually did ride back to campus together in the car.
Yeah.
And we talked about the importance of the girls sticking together, because we do realize that there is this 5-4.
Yeah, and Abby, it sounded like Abby kind of brought that up in the conversation and initiated that.
Yeah. So I think it was more of an emphasis, especially from Abby and Summer, and how, it's very important for us to vote out a guy. And, Summer says that, we need to bring a guy onto our side. And was glad that the girls, that we all went to brunch, and then that the people who didn't go to brunch happened to be guys and not the girls. So we're more connected to all of the guys who were present. And then we did see Nassan, Mitch, and Eli it seemed like they were walking to the challenge from Rise and Shine. So that was quite
all the way from Westcott back to the challenge at Newhouse. Wow. In a blizzard. Wow. And then what else? Oh, the other thing before we get to the challenge, we see that Derek claims the snake advantage, which everyone knew he had. And then we get in a room and there's some bleeps, but if you didn't catch it, basically what the advantage is, because I was right there and you could see my face. If blank will come into the game at this time. So it's that person's coming in the game. Here's their phone number. And if you make it with this person to the merge, you, Derek, get a double idol, which is basically like it has to be played it has to be played together, but it's like two idols that have to be played in the same tribal. Is essentially what the double idol, what that means.
correct.
But they bleeped out the person's name, so we don't know who it is.
Yeah, and we can't say anything about that.
Yeah.
The one thing that I also want to mention was, so before all of that happened, Luke actually did ask me, he's like, what do you think about Aaron getting voted out? And to me, I didn't know the dynamics on their tribe at all. And I didn't really know Aaron at all. I didn't really get to connect with him, and we didn't talk at the meet and greet. And so we had very minimal interaction. So for me, I was just like, well, I guess this, can affect the course of the game. But I honestly didn't really even know what this meant. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that everyone was being transparent with these advantages. I didn't know Derek was a snake and that people, knew all about that and they didn't vote him out. So that was kind of surprising after the fact that I found out that Derek was a snake and that his whole tribe knew and they didn't vote him out.
Yeah, there was a lot there. And then are we ready to get to the challenge? Which there was actually, I believe, production commented on how hard it was to edit. So the challenge was a pretty quick part of the episode, I felt, compared to last episode's challenges. And so we see it's answering questions about your tribe mates, like where do they live on campus? Who is this a quote from? What state are they from? Stuff like that. And we see that Maroon 9 comes out on top, and it's cool because the episode gives us a breakdown of what everyone's individual scores were. So you can go back and see who really dropped the ball and who really did a good job.
Yeah, so it was very interesting because the way the challenge was prefaced to us by Luke was essentially, he was not telling us what the challenge was. He just divided our two tribes into separate rooms, and we would have to choose which order each person came down. And so we were like, we don't even know what we're doing. Maroon and I were confused. We were just like, okay, this person will go first, this person will go second. And so
yeah, and it was kind of scary on my side because it's like, okay, I don't want to leave the room first, so I can't go first. So it was kind of just staying in that room as long as possible so that the remaining people in the room didn't talk about me after I left, or didn't talk about the vote that we just had. It was kind of making sure that if there were any conversations, I was a part of them, or they were just trying to halt any conversations about games so we could focus on what's at hand. Yeah. And then we have the challenge. Maroon 9 wins, and then we pick our snake stuff. So what happens is we all pick our snake stuff. I go to do a confessional personally, and I open it there. So I know what I'm getting into. And it's blank. And then the rest of the what is it? 1, 2, the 6 that are there, because we're missing Addie and Megan, who could not make it to the tribal and challenge that day. The 6 that were there go into a room, and basically, I don't know who initiates it, but there's footage of everyone revealing their cards, and so everyone knows that Erica is the snake for that week, which I don't know how that happened, but me, who was there, I knew that I had no problem sharing mine because I already knew mine was blank. I opened it before I got in that room. And it was interesting to see, Derek and Noah kind of, all of us together talking, because it was kind of the first time that group, that combination of people were probably in the same room since the beginning of the game.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting to see how your tribe has been pretty open with the whole snake advantage. And I guess it hasn't really had a huge effect on who you guys are voting out. And I feel like, considering you all lost the first challenge and then you lost the second challenge, I think one thing I was surprised about was that, voting out the snake was not a consideration, to getting an advantage in the next challenge that was coming.
Yeah, I think where I was coming from is that the people that happened to get the snakes in the 2 weeks. So we saw Derek and then we saw Erica. The people that happened to get the snakes, I wasn't like, I believe I was more of the kind that, oh, if I'm tight with them and they get an advantage, the advantage is going to go to somebody, right? There's going to be some sort of advantage. Why don't we have a friend who has that, or who has knowledge of, because I think with the first advantage, it's like, oh my God, what are people going to get? How powerful is this advantage going to be? So in a way, if you can befriend and kind of work with Derek, you could probably get the benefits of his, and it's a double idol for the future. So it's like, oh, okay. So suddenly Derek, now he either becomes this huge target once again, or he becomes this, oh, I want to be the person that when he does get to if he does get to the merge, that he uses that other half on me. Right. Because it's great to have friends that are useful, that can protect you. Mm-hmm. And then with Erica, I guess I was so paranoid the entire week. I think I knew I came out guns a blazing. So for this week, I was like, I'm just going to go with what the group wants and make it clear to Austin, Erica, and Mike that what do you want? What do you guys want to do? Let's do it, right? While simultaneously making sure that it wasn't necessarily Addie. And then if we can protect Derek as well, I saved Derek week 1, you know, and keeping him around, seeing, you know, if he, because in his advantage also, he was given the number of the person coming into the game. So is Derek going to use, are we going to get more information there? Can we get a future number that we know is going to come into the game anyway, right? By keeping, right? Like, will Derek have any pull with this person? So I think that's why things went the way that they did in my head. And then I think, honestly, I think the name of Noah came up over the week, which maybe we're jumping too far ahead, but I think it was Noah kind of from the beginning of the week, and it just stayed Noah because it was interpreted that he was more inactive than everyone else, which, I mean, college Survivor, I don't know. It's like, to a certain extent, I don't think it should be played over the course of a semester. I think they should just put us on an island on, like, right. I was not happy doing any of my classes, any of that stuff. I just wanted to play Survivor. So it was kind of right. So it was, and it's about how much you put into it. So if you like your life outside of Survivor, like, you might be putting less into the game, but if you're really into Survivor, you might be like really into the game and really active. So I think if Noah had been a woman, that may have been different, right? An active woman, because I think there was Resh that week, and Mike and Addie were also kind of very focused on that the first couple of weeks. So like, that's also another case for like people who are active, people who are inactive. But at the end of the day, it's just, I think everyone wanted to keep it easy, or they wanted to flip it on me, and they didn't feel that they had the numbers at that time to do that.
Yeah. There was a lot of talk about whether people should pin the vote on you and vote you out, because there was that distrust with the last minute whisper to be like, hey, let's vote out Aaron.
And it also came from Erica. I had a conversation with Erica, and she didn't like that I proposed an all-girls alliance, which I would understand if you're very tight with Mike and Austin and you don't want your boys to go home. That makes sense. But I think what makes more sense is, right, unless I'm throwing out Mike and Austin's name, right? Like, you're only benefiting from me protecting you simply on your gender. You could have whatever personality, act however you want, and I'd still protect you because we're in an all-girls alliance. So I thought that was interesting, and it's interesting to see how on Maroon 9, the 4 women are kind of embracing the women's alliance, it seems like, and that might come to their benefit. While on this tribe, it's like Erica's like, I don't trust her. Right. And then Mike coming out of there. And it's funny because from before the first episode, they're like, oh, like, I really trust Hannah. Like, yeah, like, I feel really good about, or whatever. And then obviously, I guess this move, it looks like they put a lot of the blame for that on me. So interesting to see. That's going to be interesting to see where it goes, and if they're going to want to make a move on me in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll be definitely interesting to see what the dynamics are moving forward, and if whoever wins next will influence that. So I want to talk a bit about Maroon 9, because we were featured a bit more in this episode.
Yeah, it was kind of
nice. So we did win immunity again, so we continue to stay Maroon 9 strong. But, I think we start to notice there are different factions forming. We start to notice that because every time a tribe wins immunity, that tribe will receive a clue to find a hidden immunity idol on campus. So because of this, Maroon 9 has now received 2 clues to find the hidden immunity idol. And in the last episode, we saw a couple people looking near the Hall of Languages and Herrick's Chapel to look for this idol, but it didn't seem like there was that much luck. But on day 8, we saw Nassan looking for this idol, and he's following the clues and using the clues. He's by Hall of Languages. He can't find anything. He's mentioning how cold and dirty it is. He's digging through, you know, the dirt. That's also the drama, is I always got paranoid when trying to look for idols, because the thing about it is I was afraid people were going to look at me weird, like, what is this girl doing?
Right. Like in sometimes DPS, the Department of Public Safety at Syracuse University, like takes some rounds and, you know, with their cars. So I was always like, anytime I was out there looking for stuff, I would like hide behind a bush because I didn't want them to come up to me and be like, what are you doing out here at 1 a.m?
I don't think I ever hid behind it.
No,
but
you probably didn't look at 1 a.m. either. But yeah, it was great to see that he found it. It was cool to see where he found it, because that same clue, something that wasn't addressed in the first episode, is that I actually ran into Daisy and Andrew looking for the idol on my way home from the first Chipotle meeting, and I got the clue. so both tribes had access to this clue, and I think it was, you don't realize how quickly idols are found. So it wasn't found the first day, but it was definitely gone by the time that I was looking, by the time that everyone else was looking, and for weeks on weeks, that's your only lead. So yeah. It was sad. And you see the clip of Mitch and I looking, but Mitch already knows that Daisy has it, or so he thinks.
Yeah, so let me touch on that before you get there, because
let's talk about, so Nassan finds the idol.
Yes, Nassan finds the idol.
And this is so great. So not only do we have crazy me with my 5 fake idols and 20 fake clues, we have Nassan, who, these grad students are smart, I'm telling you. He goes to the thrift store, he gets like a little necklace, wraps it up with the same paper in the same material, and hides it where he found it, which is so smart. And it's funny that we have all of these fakes in this season, threatening to complicate the game. It's kind of exciting. And so we see him hide it, and then we see Daisy find it. But on her way out, Abby and Summer see her looking, and then you also join her, Geneva, and you all just merged because you all happened.
The way that it was edited was a little weird, but what actually happened was Abby, Summer, Daisy, and myself were together. Abby dropped me off at my apartment, and then Abby and Summer were still together with Daisy, and then they dropped Daisy off at her dorm. And then I went back into my apartment. I changed because I was like, I need to be dressed appropriately to go look for this idol, because we were getting the idol clue from Luke. And so then I walked back to campus. Daisy also walked back to campus, and Abby and Summer were like, we're going to go look for the idol. And then what ended up happening was Daisy is looking for the idol. I come up, I see Daisy looking for the idol. Then Abby and Summer both come up and they join us, and we're like, oh, all 4 of us are looking for the idol. So that's what ended up happening. And then I was with Daisy, and Daisy found the idol. Then we showed Abby and Summer what happened. And then we showed them where we found the fake idol, which we didn't know was a fake at the time because it had the legit paper and the legit wrapping. But we were like, well, okay, if we do go to tribal in a future, episode, then we at least have this idol against the guys if the 5 guys decide to vote out a girl. So that's kind of what the mentality we were going with at that point. And so, Daisy was super excited in the snow that she had found this idol, but turns out Nassan had already found the idol and he hid this fake idol in its place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pretty cool. And then we speaking of which, is our guest on their way? Then we can ask them about their.
Let us see.
This week we invited a guest. We'll see if he makes an appearance. And then we were thinking about reaching out to our other cast colleagues, but some of them are hard to reach. But
yes.
So
I will talk more about my tribe before we get to talk about Close to Tribal Council in case our guest doesn't come. But some other things that were talked about. So with Maroon 9 specifically, Andrew talked a bit about how he was getting nervous about potential tribe swap because our tribe is doing so well. So it was getting to a point where it's like, if we win another challenge consecutively, Luke is probably going to be like, well, we can't have one tribe with 9 people, another tribe with like 6 or 5. So we were expecting that a tribe swap could happen if we won the next challenge. So, Andrew was kind of worried about that, but
if you win, who's going to win the next challenge? I don't know.
We don't know. And that's why I'm saying we were talking about the potential of if we win another challenge, there could be a tribe swap. So, which is an understandable thought. And so like when our tribe is already getting along really well, we don't want the dynamics to change or adapt. And so it seemed like Eli also was a bit, nervous about the challenge because like when we started meeting up in a separate room after we completed the challenge, a lot of us were like, well, we don't think we got them any right. We weren't sure. But Eli actually got 5 out of 5 correct. But he does think that, I think our bonding experience did really help us, clinch that victory. And I think it did. And I think he actually told me that two of his 5 questions are about me, and so I guess he knew me well enough, so that's good. And so so there was a lot of talk that had happened between a few people on my tribe. So Abby and Summer were together, and Jack was texting Abby. Apparently about forming an alliance with them. And then they had a conversation, maybe there's a potential rumblings of a final 3 or something there. And then basically, Jack is already close with Eli and Andrew. And so the 5 of them had basically decided to form a 5 majority alliance. So that's basically what was coming into play. And so Jack had kind of touched on and talked about, if we have to go to tribal, then we can basically blindside one of the other 4. It's clear that the guys that we're working with, like the Backstreet Boys, they all think that we're good. And then Abby and Summer, they're working with Geneva and Daisy, and Geneva and Daisy probably think they're good. So we're just going to probably, make people on our tribe mad by whatever move that we do make if we do go to tribal after the next challenge. So that was very interesting to see that start to form. Because I was interested.
It's almost harder. It's almost harder. You guys finally going to tribal, having 2 weeks to get to know each other, and you don't. It's like our first week. It was like boom, okay, this side, that side. But in this, you see like everyone kind of intermingling and trying to be on everyone's good side so that, because, right, if you don't have to go to tribal, why would you make enemies?
Right. And I didn't intentionally really try to strategize too much because of that reason. I didn't want to be perceived as playing too hard. I just wanted to try and form those social connections with people. And then when it came to it, would form maybe more like strategic connections. And, at the very end of the episode, we do see me talking to someone potentially for strategic reasons, but that's something that we can't really talk too much about because that's next week. But that is like an example of something I do start to talk to people and strategize with people. But anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of talk about Noah, and there's a lot of talk about Hannah. And, Hannah had an interesting confessional, I believe. She was talking about, I guess, Addie's perceptions of her, and I guess also talking about how she wants people to think she's a Hufflepuff, and
right. That confessional, that vlog was really about, because I think something that I do notice during the game, whether I act on it or not, is that I do notice that I need to reel it back, and that I cannot present myself as a Slytherin. I cannot present myself as playing hard, because that will get me voted out. So it's, how can I appear like a goat? How can I make Addie feel like she did this all by herself? How can I make it seem to the freshmen three, who Austin, Mike, and Erica, who, if you guys did not know, all live in this, they lived in Lawrenson and Sadler, which are freshman dorms that are right by each other, very, very far away from South Campus, might I add, which where I was, because I was a sophomore at the time. And so they were tight knit already, before they officially proclaimed it to us. But how can we make these alliances feel like they're in charge? Right, even though I'm in charge, which I think is fun to see. Did it work or did it not work, in these episodes? And it seems like whatever I'm doing, they're already interpreting and picking up as me playing too hard. So that's going to be interesting to see how that develops. And it is, I think this episode puts to question, what is playing too hard? What is not playing, right? Mm-hmm. What is the right level of activity, right? Because for people who don't go to tribal, for people that go to tribal, how much is too much and how much is too little, right? Because I think we see in Noah's case, at least from my perspective and my perspective on that vote, is that it was the easy vote because he wasn't connected, because for whatever reason, we didn't perceive him as active as everyone else. But if you're active like me, if you are making an effort to talk to as many people as possible, and fill in your parties when needed, that could then be perceived as playing too hard. If you are the friend, if you're too nice to everyone and you're too giving and you give too much information, that's playing too hard. And suddenly people are wanting to make moves on you and you don't even know it.
Right. Yeah. So before we get to specifically tribal, because we obviously know who's been voted out because Hannah has kind of spoiled that a couple times. But I kind of want to talk a little bit about the Fab Five a bit, Megan, Hannah, Erica, Mike, Austin, and more specifically the night before and that conversation. And I guess the whole Derek interaction. It seems like Derek has been in these interesting situations where either his friends are overhearing that he's voted out or he's noticing that he's not part of a particular.
Yeah, it's like Derek is in the right place, like the right places at the right time, where his friends are. So this story, we see the Fab Five met up. I wanted to meet up with the four, with the other three, because I want it to be a four at this time. And then we invite Megan to come later, and then join us. So we meet as a five, the remaining people of the solid six. It's not the solid six anymore, obviously. But we meet, we talk, we decide Noah. That's all we need. We only need five. And then we head down and somebody says, yo, doesn't Derek's girlfriend, isn't she an RA here at Lawrenson? And they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should split up. Maybe we should. Nah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. We go down the elevator. It opens the door. Derek is right there. The very person, right? He walks in. He's like, hi guys. And Erica's like, oh wait, do you want to go talk, Derek? Let's go talk. And so those two go talk and the rest of us are like, and it was such a great moment. I wish we would have gotten it on camera because it was like in the movies. It was like in the movies. So that is something funny that happened that week.
Yeah.
You would have thought that I mean, that would have, I think that real, like, I wonder what Derek was really thinking at that moment. In terms of like, oh shit, like 5 people in my tribe just met without me and I didn't know about it. It can be pretty concerning.
Yeah. So it was very interesting to hear about because, you know, Derek had a confessional where he talked about it. Then Erica had a confessional as well, and she was freaking out about the meeting because even though they decided they weren't voting out Derek, they were voting out Noah. It's still awkward to encounter somebody that is not
because it's very obvious if you're meeting up with 5, right? If you're meeting up with 5 people and 2 people, Addie and Derek, or 3 people, Addie, Derek, and Noah, are left out, right? That last, I mean, imagine being in Derek's shoes. That last tribal, you're like, yes, people respect me. Yes, I have a second chance. Yes, everyone's telling me that, oh, I'm glad Aaron went home. So glad you're still here, Derek. And then to see those same people, you open the doors and they're meeting without you, and they could be plotting to send you home, which, like, I think people don't realize it's like the decision to keep Derek week 1 was a decision to keep Derek for as long as we can keep Derek.
Mm-hmm.
How many times we go to tribal? Because I think the decision is who can I use better, Aaron or Derek? And the decision was made that Derek is more useful, and whatever advantage he gets is more useful because we can control that, which is maybe naive thinking of these players at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But people make their own decisions. And the thing of Derek's advantage, he only gets this power. Now we all know the knowledge of this person coming into the game, when they're coming into the game, that they're coming into the game at like 14, the note says, and that, like, that's probably tribe swap territory anyway. So now we know all this information. And we know that the only way that he gets this power is if he makes it to a certain milestone in the game, which has, I mean, there's still 16 people in the game at this point now. Mm-hmm. Like, you still have 4 or 5 tribals at least to get him and that power out if you're not comfortable with him having that power. Which is like, why wait? But also, I mean, people play in different ways. And I think that was the thinking of that time. But it is funny that Derek, I wonder if Derek did anything with that information.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll
either
see.
Going to Addie or going to Noah or saying, like, I saw these people meeting up or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he just used it for the confessional. I'm not really sure.
Well, also, if you're on the bottom, maybe like laying low and keeping everything to yourself, all the insecurities, all your doubts, all your whatever, might be the easiest way to like stay in the game rather than confronting people about stuff like that.
But yeah, and then we generally touched on a little bit the Girls Alliance that Hannah really wants to form with not only the girls on her tribe, but the girls on my tribe, and how she feels mostly comfortable with Austin and Mike. And it was very interesting, the comment about Hannah thinks she has us in the palm of our hand.
Hannah thinks she has us in the palm of her hands. And to be honest, she's right. I did think I had them in the palm of my hand. And watching this episode was a little sad. I was a little like, but it was cool to see that the decision, the push that I don't really trust Hannah. Maybe we should do something, coming from Mike specifically. Right? Because episode 1, Aaron tells me, oh, like, I'm the brains behind Mike, right? We get this idea that Mike's just like a pretty face, just the muscle of the team, just, an athlete, but really there's a bigger player behind Mike. And he's got, and it is funny to see them having these thoughts, because when you're in the game, you spend so much time with people. And I spent a lot of time on my individual relationships with Austin, Mike, and Erica. So yeah. So she said that they think about it. they deduce that they probably don't have the numbers. And I almost wish that they had tried to make some calls and try to flip an Addie or a Derek or a Megan, because I would have loved to be in the game and to hear that. Right. I would have loved to see so let's say, for example, that they had talked to Derek or an Addie or a Megan, if any of those people would have come back and told me.
Mm-hmm.
Or would they have just not voted or wrote, like, because that's the thing. You can't control people, right, talking about you in their little circles and then not doing anything about it. But like, what happens when someone close to you is approached with a deal, right? And they're the one vote to get you out. Like, what do they do?
Yeah. Can I say the one thing that was interesting for me about Mike's confessional was he was talking about, well, we have the three of us and we could tell Noah to get 4 votes. We won't get voted out, but then we could go to Rocks. And I was like, wait, we're going to go to Rocks in episode 2.
I honestly would have loved to go to Rocks, because I think that would have been a really interesting tribal. And I would have hoped that because
I would be
I think, because I don't know if, like, they were really, like, I think at the end of the day, it's like, why would you go to Rocks to get me out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I'm like, clearly, because they said they couldn't trust me, but at the end of the day, I made it very clear to them that I had no intention of voting them out, and the fact that I'm ready to vote out a Noah or a Derek over them probably means that they're okay for a tribal or 2.
Right.
So I thought that was fun. I think that's fun. Like, you're going to go to Rocks to get someone out week 2.
I was like,
that person must be like pretty special, is my thinking. Like, you're really that intimidated. Yeah, it just shows how much that first tribal shook them and probably changed their games from the first, right? Like, that probably impacted, where their games are going to go for the rest of their.
I just don't know if I would go to Rocks that early for anybody, just because I don't think there are any that solidified relationships, but I do think it's an interesting thought. But I think the one challenge they did realize that they had is that they didn't have the social capital at that point in the game to make a serious move. So it just made sense. Okay, well, we're going to vote out Noah because Noah is the most inactive and a lot of us don't really have relationships with him. But
and I think, like, being active, being social, talking to everyone, that might put you in a bad spot. But it also, like, if you talk to everyone and have a relationship with everyone, you're not an asshole that they want to vote out. Mm-hmm. Which I think is pretty important and will be important later on in the game. Right? Because jury management will come into the game at some point. Probably not this. I mean, whether it matters at this stage in the game,
I don't know.
I think it always matters for me. What you do pre-merge, what you do after.
One thing that I always say is social awareness and jury management are like really integral and important aspects of the game, and you can't overlook them. You cannot. And I think it'll be interesting to see how that might come into play in the season. But before the end, I want to talk a bit about the tribal. So we were, outside for this one. At least the snow wasn't as bad as the last one.
Right.
Luke did ask a question.
I don't think I got asked a question that tribal.
Yeah, I don't have anything noted that you did. I know that Addie had talked a bit about the thought process of voting out Aaron. And the sense essentially he was playing hard, had people on both sides, had
really
a double line. So
I will say, like, the talk about Aaron after Aaron is gone is so funny, because I think particularly myself and Addie told people things to get them to vote Aaron because we wanted Aaron out. But those things weren't necessarily true, but people took them as truth. And they continue to say these things about Aaron to this day when, like, right, like he wasn't like he said certain like I he said certain things about Mike, or he said certain things that obviously inspired me to vote for him. But I think the way that information, or like this person is sus, this person is this, gets around in this game is hilarious. Like, people don't form their own thoughts. They hear you say something and then they go and they're like, oh my God, this person was slimy, this person did this. Or they say what you want to hear, which is maybe exactly what it sounded like. That was a little bit of what Austin and Mike were doing, that when they were asked questions at that tribal, it sounded like they were saying exactly what I wanted to hear.
Can I say it was very bold for Austin to just be like, yeah, we were going to vote you out, Derek.
Okay.
But, I was told last minute. So
okay. I mean, I don't know if he had to say that to get his point across, but it is what,
I just thought that was hilarious. I was like, I don't know if I would have straight up told that to Derek's face like that, but you could do what you want to do, I guess. And Megan thought it was a smart move to vote out Erin for her game.
Well, yeah, Megan personally had, I think, the strongest case to get, more so than Derek, Noah, and Addie. I think Megan had the strongest case to get Erin out, because Erin specifically said to me that he would prefer if we replaced Megan with Addie, more so than like down the line. I think those two are disposable, or like, these people over here, like, right, rather than that list in the room, which was just a visual aid. I don't think it was actually I don't think it was actually set in the order of which, the bottom three would be voted out. But I think for Megan, getting out Erin really helped her. And now she, by not being at that tribal, by not being at that challenge, right, we see Megan coming out on top. And Addie got a vote. So funny.
She also mentioned that they've been forced to play the game a bit more strategically than Maroon 9. But I mean, the thing is you guys have to play the game more, because you have to vote people out. We don't have to vote anybody out. So there's not much we need to do. So, I mean, I guess that's but
I mean, I think they're both strategic. I think it's a different side of the game. So you're winning. There's different strategy involved with that, right? This is the time, as we see, you guys start cooking. You guys start making things happen. And that is the time to make things happen, to make those bonds. The last thing you want to do is, like, the night before a tribal, try to get in with someone and try to make deals or last minute things, or be like, oh, like, final two, baby, or like, let's have right. You don't want to be doing that when you're in danger. You want to be doing that when you're safe, when you're happy, when you're like, oh my God, you're so cool. I love your eyes. Let's be friends. Like, that is the time to make alliances, is when you're safe. We see Zeleny, all of that is being put to test because we have to vote people out twice. Right? And if we go again, who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly. Yeah, and Derek was stressed, but he has really grown to like and trust everybody. So he doesn't really want anyone to go home. And I think, I understand that idea, because basically everybody saved him, and he was the target last week. And
right. Then only Erin voted Derek. So he doesn't. He, at the end of the day, although I may have told people at Tribal to vote for for Erin, like, he doesn't have anybody to blame, because no one really wrote his name down.
Right.
What they thought about it, like, that's, but and it's not like people didn't have reason to write his name down, because he admits that he did lie. And I think he understands that. But I think the elevator scene, like the elevator thing that happened, really put probably, like, he was like, oh shit, like, really, like, still. Right. Yeah. Because after the tribal, it probably felt like, yeah, I'm in the team. Like, yes, I have a future. And then that happened, and it's like, and then Noah's going home, who he doesn't want to send home. Yeah, he does. He goes, oh, which I wish, looking back, I wish Derek had been like, can we please send some, like, right? What if Derek had come to people and said, let's do Mike, let's do Erica, let's, right? Or turned it back or did something crazy like that. I don't know. Maybe that would have hurt his game and sent him home, but it would have been spicy if I think everyone this week particularly was so scared to do anything. I think the Noah reiterates, like, no one knows what to do. They all seem really confused. Well, part of that was people, right, lying to Noah's face, but another part of that was like, that was the tone of the week.
But that's where I wonder, like, your name was a name that was out there, so it's like,
well, to three people,
right? But you could have easily been like, hey, y'all, let's do something different. But I mean, I guess for his game, it wouldn't really make too much sense considering you helped save him. So I think
thank God. But also, it looks like they never asked. So what if they had asked? He said no this week, but then he says yes next week. You know what I mean? Like, that could have been the right. Or he could have been like, oh my God, I'd rather save Noah. Fuck Hannah, right? That could have happened, but we will never know because it didn't happen at this time. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. So yeah, and then
the vote is 7-1. Noah,
I was still.
Oh, you're still on tribal.
I'm still going through things. So Noah was talking about, Luke had said basically it was 7-9 to split. So we know how essential is this vote in comparison with Maroon 9 and Zeleny. And he's like, it wasn't really clear cut. While I think this vote is important, it's not important as others in the future. And other people kind of explain what their, opinions are in this case. And essentially, yeah, then we get this 7-1 vote, and Noah votes Addie, but everyone else votes Noah. But next, everybody, we actually do have a surprise guest who is here today, and he is actually from my tribe, Maroon 9. So I'm going to bring in the wonderful Jack. So welcome, Jack, to the stream. How are you today?
I'm very good. What's up with the camera, by the way? Do I have to put it, like, I'm on my phone, and I feel like I'm off. Oh, wait, no, that was just backstage. All right, we're good.
You're good. You're good.
Right,
you're good.
Live.
So,
how
what were your general impressions about this episode, Jack?
Impressions of the episode?
Yeah.
I thought I think this episode was pretty good compared to the first one. I liked both, but I do think this one was more exciting. I liked the in-depth look at the freshman 3, I think. Yeah. Freshman 3. Yeah. Getting to know them a little bit more was good. Also, like, understanding Derek's position in all of this, like, revealing the snake was big. And knowing, like, the tribe knowing that he was the snake, that was a bold move, and, like, all power and all credit to him for getting out of that first vote. But I do kind of understand the Noah vote out. If they really thought, like, he wasn't playing that hard, or because everyone is playing really hard, and it's an intense game, and if you see someone that isn't playing hard and you, like, don't appreciate that they're playing hard, then send them home. But I mean, I think I didn't know Noah personally. I think he would have been a really good player in the game just because of his social skills. I think socially you can just tell that he's a really strong player.
Absolutely.
But then again, there's a lot of, like, from what I've seen from the episodes, it looks like there's a lot of really smart people on Zeleny. They like to from my viewpoint on what I'm seeing in the episodes, there are people that like to analyze and maybe overanalyze, but there's a lot of people that understand the game enough where they think they can make the right decision. And I guess we'll have to see how that goes. But a lot of people think they know what the right moves are. And so far, Aaron and Noah have gone home, and there's a lot of people that are saying that benefits them, which it could. So, I mean, I guess we'll have to see in the future episodes what happens. But I mean, this episode was good. The Maroon 9 sides were fun. I was not at the brunch. Geneva's meal did look really good.
Yeah, you have mimosa.
Really, it was delicious.
The
I love.
mimosas.
Yeah.
If I knew everyone was slinging back mimosas, I might have had.
Well, I think I was one of the only people who had a mimosa because I was probably one of the only people of age. So
Right, and there's no legal drinking going on. So that was probably way too long of a summary of the episode. You guys are probably not going on.
no, that's great. So I actually wanted to hear a little bit more of your perspective on two main things. So the first thing is your reach out to Abby and Summer and then the formation of the 5. And then I also want to know a bit about what you thought about the whole Nissan finding the idol and then the Daisy fake idol thing.
So first off, Nissan, great idol find. Especially playing in like it wasn't snowy when he found it, and then all of a sudden there's like 6 inches of snow on the ground, and
right, freaks are running around with shovels.
Hannah's racing around.
No gloves.
Daisy's racing around. You know, I think Nissan is proving that he is a really, really strong player. And the fact that his first instinct was, okay, I'm gonna go get another idol and put it the same spot I found it and put it in the wrapping, that's a big move. And
and the fact that he's not the only that we had, fake queen over here, and then Nissan thinks the same thing, and now we have 2 little dorks running around with fake idols.
Yeah, I
mean, pockets. Like,
it's just a lot of, I think it's a lot of like gamer mentality. People are trying to be gamers, and there's a lot of people that think they're gamers and they're making gamer moves, and the people that are finding the idols are like, I mean, I'm set. You saw the look on Daisy's face. She's like, look at this bad boy. I mean,
it was an exciting moment. It was also funny because literally I was I mentioned this a bit earlier, but I was with the girls, and then Abby and Summer dropped me off at my apartment, and then Daisy got dropped off at her dorm, and then Daisy walked back. I walked back to Hall of Languages. We ran into each other. Then we ran into Abby and Summer, and then we all started looking. So we got the clue from Luke, we're going to go search. And so it was quite this moment, and the paper was the legitimate paper. So we didn't really have, anything to think otherwise. And we didn't know Nissan had it at that point. So
I would like to think if I was Daisy and I found that, I would try and convince myself that it's not a real idol, but it looked so legit.
Yeah. I mean, I would question. It kind of looked. I think the sad thing about our season is that we didn't see season 1 because it was coming out at the same time. I don't think the necklace necessarily looked like college Survivor idols, but you don't know what you're looking for. So I mean, it had the note and everything. Why would she think otherwise? It had the note. It had the paper.
You can change it too. Like, you saw how easy it was to find something at a thrift shop.
Mm-hmm.
Buy 5 of those. They can all look different,
Yeah.
And did you ask me another question?
So I just wanted to know about what led you, to reach out to Abby and start that alliance.
Well, I mean, clearly the first 2 episodes, it's like the first episode for sure, Backstreet Boys Alliance. And from what you saw, Backstreet Boys Alliance, that is a thing, I tried to communicate with everyone on the tribe, and it's just a matter of who I felt comfortable with. And I mean, I reached out to Abby because the trust, she seemed like a very reliable person, and I just gave her the benefit of the doubt and thought, this might be the best way for me to get to the end. I mean, I don't see it as like that aggressive of a move. I just wanted, the people that I made personal bonds with, I thought like if I can just have them thinking in their head, like, oh, Jack is even like considering a final three with me, like that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to put,
early in the game, that sounds pretty hot.
Yeah, I mean,
like that, like being said to you that early in the game where no one's saying that kind of shit is like, oh, so
right. I mean, obviously, I didn't know Summer was there, so I thought I was just talking to Abby,
Right.
But I did end up saying final three with her, me, and Summer. So
it
honestly worked out for me for sure because, like even though you hear people in the first episode like Eli saying like he had the closest bonds with Andrew and me,
Mm-hmm.
and watching the post show that Luke had, they were making assumptions on like R5 and against their like not the guys but me, Andrew, Eli, Abby, and Summer against Nassan, Mitch, you, and Daisy, and we'll have to like obviously wait and see until the next episodes, but I mean there are like assumptions being made about alliances, but at this point we haven't lost yet.
Well, it also seems like it's way more layered. Jen and I were talking about like how it seems more layered than that.
Right. I mean, there's so many layers.
Right, because you guys haven't lost yet. Nobody's making enemies with anyone at this point. So you guys really haven't had to test which, or pick which alliance you really want to go with yet.
And it was kind of clear, with the challenge. Like, I'm sure if there was no brunch there, I mean, that challenge was probably 100% Zeleni's win if that brunch doesn't happen, because nobody on our team was strategizing yet. We didn't have the need to strategize unless, we're sending out like, oh, final three, like I sent out a final three feeler. That's basically the extent of what at least I was doing.
Hey, you did way more than me. I was just being like, hey, people, how are you doing? And then like, are you strategizing? And I'm like, no, I'm not talking games.
And then we see your tribe mate, Mitch, leading me, driving me to go find idols that he that he thinks is, gone. And
right.
Funny. Yeah.
So, I mean, like for the first 2 weeks, I'd say, I mean, there's definitely some gamers out there. And apparently, according to Zeleny, the people that have been getting voted off are either trying to ruffle feathers like Aaron, or Noah's just not connected with many people. That's kind of the vibe I got. So, and I mean, Hannah, like, changing to Aaron last second, first vote, even though it really wasn't last second because Megan had to make the vote the day before, whoever.
Or hours or whenever.
No. Well, yeah, I think something that needs to be reiterated is what I told. Like, I did my best to make it seem like, oh, it was really last minute. It was like Addie and Megan. It was on them. But I don't think that the freshman three necessarily bought that. And Addie and Megan weren't there at the Challenger Tribal, which really, I think, helped them in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, Addie got 1 out of 6.
That didn't help because that got her a vote, right? At Tribal, but Megan came out on top this week, kind of. We didn't see too much, but it looked like, her name wasn't in people's mouths, which is like kind of a good thing.
Yeah, I think she's in a better position than she was in week 1, because I think week 1 people were like, Megan, she's a little too much. How do we feel her?
The first 2 minutes of the season, Hannah's already shooting bullets at Megan.
I mean, something that they don't explain is that the later that week I meet with Megan, I have coffee with Megan. I'm like, oh, one-on-one, she cool. That was just a first day thing, but
I said the same exact thing.
But I will say Megan definitely had the most to lose from Aaron staying in the game, and now that he's gone, and now that Noah just left, which I don't think she had a connection with Noah anyway, she's in a pretty good spot, and it looks like she's not the next up to go. It looks like if they have their way, if the freshman three have their way, I'm the next to go. as far as Zeleny. So we'll see how that plays out.
Here's a question I have for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the snake advantage, why not stress? Like, it's a question that everyone has. Why not stress voting out the person that is the snake? Like, that would be the easy way to do it. Especially if you're looking to win a challenge, the addition of an advantage in the challenge seems pretty attractive.
Well, I think with me, I think I overthought it. One, because I should have just gone for I think going for the easier options would have been better in the long run. But I think with Derek, I think there was something about the mystery of what kind of level of power is he going to get? You know, is this going to be an idol? Is this going to be an immediate thing? Is it going to be a steal a vote? And are people getting this every week? So how, and it gives you perspective of what the next couple of weeks are going to look like. And I think the nice thing about the fact that Derek stayed is that Derek willingly gave that information. The double idol is his and only his in the event that he gets it at merge, which is how many tribals away. Right. But we learned that Bleep was coming into the game when they were coming into the game, and Derek got their phone number. So there was a lot there that I guess it was like, okay, I guess we got something good, even though we lost the challenge. But then this week, I don't know why an Addie or a Derek or a Noah didn't push harder for Erica to go, knowing that, right?
Knowing how good of an advantage Derek might have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why make the threat of having someone like Erica have another advantage with the same?
Yeah, especially
strength.
when it seems like Derek and Noah were the people in the room that said, okay, let's all reveal our cards. I certainly did not. I already knew at that point I had a blank because I already looked at it. But I think if you're going to make everyone reveal their cards, like, what are you doing that for? If not to find out who has the snake and to eliminate them. So I think Erica was also a woman. And in my mind, I wasn't about to send a fellow female home. But
that seems like a common. The gender division.
Well, here's the deal. We see that it doesn't really matter because, well, at least, and we see that, you know, the four girls on Maroon 9 might be taking it seriously, but Erica was not thrilled by the proposition. She's obviously not a girl, not into that. So, right. So like you can think like, right, that only benefits her because she's a woman, and that's cool. Right. Because now she has another right thing going on as well as the freshman 3, but she was still, for some reason, it spooked her.
I mean,
so
even if that's not, like, if you're a woman and that's not your thing, but there's other women that want it, ride it out.
Right.
Know?
I mean, I would take it an extra side alliance.
Ride it out until I say, let's vote out Mike. Right. Because once I throw one of your boys under the bus, like, do it. But at that point in the game, all I was doing was praising the ground that Austin walked upon and making eyes at Mike, because these cute little freshman boys, and I think I simped so hard for them, and that was my fault, because like, you look at them, but at the end of the day, right, they didn't trust me after that move, and it would have just made sense to leave them at the bottom of the tribe and vote them out.
I love the age division between a freshman and then we have a grad student like Geneva.
Yeah, and I think that'll be interesting to see how that comes into play.
Was that noticeable for you, right off the bat? Could you tell which people were younger without even knowing? Or
some of them have baby faces, and some of them look like old men and are already balding. So
yeah.
Did you see that quote tonight?
I think there were some people, like, I think class years kind of seemed blurred for some. But I think more just through my interactions with certain people, I was able to more tell their class year based off of that. And I think it's crazy that I was basically 7 years older than basically a good chunk of the cast.
Yeah, I mean, I last year was my first year at Syracuse because I'm a transfer student. So I mean, I even felt like a freshman in some way. So I mean, it I feel like in some ways it can play an advantage. Like people talked about it on last week's post show, like especially for like they talked about you and Andrew.
Mhm.
You know, it could play like, oh, she has plenty of life experience. She's super smart, and if people know what major you are, or what your personal background is, they could. I mean, anybody can use any excuse to play it against you in a
Yeah.
game like Survivor. There's always a reason to vote somebody out. You know,
I was low-key paranoid that, in the future, if we would go to Tribal and Maroon 9, that I would be the first out because I was a grad student. And that's literally like,
Yeah.
I think it's something that stands out in comparison to everybody else. So it's a thing, a consideration I did have on my mind. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to try and be social with people. I mean, at least within my master's program, there were people who were like, Jack's age in my program, but also people who were in their 30s, so even older than me. So I do have a wide variety of friends of different ages, but I still think that I could tell, but I think it was not necessarily more from looking at them, but it was more through my interactions.
Mhm.
And I think more so than you being a grad student, it's where people live. And I think the fact that the freshmen 3 all lived together in Lawrence or Sadler, that was super easy and convenient for them to just bond. Yeah.
My tribe, I know.
Yeah,
we were somewhat scattered. I know I was on South Geneva,
but Summer and Andrew and Daisy were all on the Mount.
Summer was in Lawrence. Andrew was on the Mount. I know Geneva, you were in Campus West.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where Nissan was, but I know Eli was on South.
Yeah,
so
you, Eli, Mitch, Derek, and I are all on South.
The division definitely seemed like it was more on our side, at least in terms of proximity. But like anything, it all plays a role. Somehow everything ties together. Which is
I think I was closest to Summer because
it's so many factors, and it's not necessarily like personal. Which I think is hard to realize at first. Right? Like,
I mean, all I know is I'm very excited for the coming episodes. Next week's episode, I feel like the intensity ramped up in this one a little bit. People are finding idols, like the forming of the alliances. Like the first episode is more of a get to know you type thing in any Survivor you watch. Then the alliances start being made and the game starts to evolve. So that's always the most fun for me to see.
Next week will be a really good one. I'm looking forward to that one.
I wonder why.
I mean, we all play, so we all know what's going to happen, but they're all truly enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think some more than others.
It is what it is, though.
Yeah. So, Jack, thank you so much for coming on. Is there somewhere that you want people to find you if they want to continue to follow up with you? Or
I mean, if there's people interested in me, you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter. I don't ever tweet on Twitter, which is kind of weird. I just retweet sports. But Instagram, I have a decent social life. I'd say like a 5 out of 10 social life.
5 out of 10.
5 out of 10 social life. I'm not that exciting. What?
What is that IG account? Let people know.
See, I don't even know my username.
They'll find you.
It might be
I'll put it in the description later.
It could be at Lovalvo J, maybe. I don't know. I would say if you're interested in getting to know me more, props to you. Keep watching, please. That's what I'll say. Thank you for having me on, by the way. Geneva and Hannah, according to them, they are sequestered legends. So I'm just graced to be in the presence of 2 legends. Apparently, there's probably some sequestered people watching because they're fans.
I don't think there's anyone watching tonight, but that's okay.
Well, we'll watch later.
People will watch.
People will watch later, and then you can tell. I mean, I'm sure. I hope the word gets around to our cast members that we've been out of touch with, and that they come and they see these wonderful things that we're saying about them.
and I would love to come on again. You know,
Yeah.
Well, you're coming back.
Real life got in the way of me coming on earlier today, so I'm sorry, but
No, you're good.
Had to see what this was all about. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And also, you can follow Syrvivor
cool.
on Twitter. Yes, lovely banners. They're fun. You can also follow them on Instagram for more updates about the season. Then you can also follow Hannah.
Whoa.
Yeah, when you get your socials, I can be sure to put it on a banner for you, Jack.
Nice.
And then you can follow me at Peace Love Jen on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Be sure to like, comment, and share this video and subscribe to my channel. And
meow.
Hannah's adorable cat. And thank you all so much for watching, and we will see